first, before I get started, I want to, offer, my sincerest condolences to, the family of Wes Rucker. You know, it's obviously a tragedy. Wes covered me when I was at Tennessee, and, he was a basketball guy before it became fashionable because the SEC wasn't very good in basketball. And a true professional guy that just knew his stuff, was very fair and honest in his assessments. He when you think about, journalism and beat writing at Tennessee, that's the name that you always will remember. And, he did me a ton of solids when I was having a really bad radio show out of college, trying to find my way, and he would come on Sunday mornings and be my guest, and he didn't have to do that, and he was always incredibly generous to me, and so I'm just praying for his wife Lauren right now, and it's a terrible tragedy, and hopefully everybody keeps them in their prayers right now while they're going through a really difficult time. Once again, our fan base, whether we deserve it or not, they're unbelievable, and they just continue to show up and show out and just continue to support this team. And we're so thankful and we're grateful. The Outlive game was another huge success. My sister Jackie did an unbelievable job of putting the event on, and raised a ton of awareness and hopefully a ton of money. So incredibly appreciative to our fan base and our administration for allowing us to keep this tradition going, and it's obviously a great cause, and was another successful night. Big win, obviously, for our team. Felt like that was one we had to get, just based on where we were in the season and that recent 5-game stretch. Our guys, did a good job of, kind of battling the highs and the lows of that game, because there was a bunch of them. There was 11 lead changes, game was tied 10 times, and our guys just continued to fight. We got down 9 early, had to burn a timeout and just kind of refocus the group. We had to fix our body language a little bit. Wasn't great at halftime. It wasn't great coming out of halftime. And then Elijah Freeman comes in, and him and Keyshawn Murphy are just, phenomenal the second half, and just did a lot of really good things for us. We had to do a better job of finishing games. We were up 4, I think, at the under 4 media, and just talked about having to finish. And we had 2 coverage mistakes on back-to-back possessions that led to threes, very similar to the Mississippi State game. So we got to stop doing that if we want to win. So a lot to learn from, but down 3 late, find a way to get to the free throw line, make 2, and draw a foul on the press. And our guys just hung in there, and Elijah obviously makes a big play late. So with that, take any questions.
Obviously, Elijah can put back in the end, but he was plus 10 for y'all tonight. Led the team. Just how big was he in the end, but also just throughout the game, giving y'all that spark?
Yeah, that was about as physical I've seen him play offensively, probably. In a while. He was just had his shoulders down, did a great job putting the ball on the floor and just being aggressive. And I liked a lot of the looks that he had in the game. He had a couple clean ones from 3 that I thought were in, and he just did a really good job of just playing physically. And to be plus 10 in a 1-point win really speaks to his contributions, and did a lot of really good things out there defensively. And he was great tonight. So that's the Elijah that we need every game in order for us to beat the best teams on our schedule. So our bench gave some good contributions tonight, and Elijah was great.
Brian.
Stephen, you mentioned Mississippi State. What does it say about the resiliency of your team that you're going through that possibly again, but this time they bounced back and made it defense at the end? And the second part is, what did you see on that? I think it was Kevin Overton that drew that foul there late. What did you see on that play?
Our guys did a great job of bouncing back. I think it's been a pretty interesting slate up to this point. I don't ever want to say that we've been unlucky, but if you look at some of the performances that opposing players have had, especially from 3, I think we've had 11 or 12 guys since conference play has started that have either matched their season highs or had a season high in 3-point makes against us. And a lot of those guys are guys that are like shooting 28 to 32% from 3 at the time. And then, obviously Hubbard goes ballistic and has 46, and then he goes 4 for 20 tonight at South Carolina. So about threw up my lunch when I watched that. So to answer your question, I think our guys have done a good job of recognizing that we've been a little unlucky in some of these games, because that's how we have to defend. You know, we can't not be in gaps because teams would be too good getting to the rim and finishing through contact. And tonight was probably the first time that the numbers actually went back into our favor as far as teams not making open shots. You know, Kentucky goes 6 for 23. They shoot like 36%, I think, from three. So finally, you know, we had one go our way, which was great. And then I mean, KO was in a stance, and KO's back's to me, so I didn't, you know, see the play, but looked like he extended his arms, and we got the offensive foul, so we were able to get the ball back, and did a great job of, you know, getting an inside touch so we could at least have the opportunity to get an offensive rebound. And then, you know, we kind of knew what they were going to run at the end of the game. We saw Marino do it against LSU. So, you know, he almost caught it again, and, you know, fortunately he kind of bobbled it, and we were able to win the game.
Coach Marco came in here and he very articulately expressed his thoughts on how physical the game was. What are your thoughts on how physical this was, and how do you keep your team focused through kind of how this game was called?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that there was a foul on every single possession the first 5 minutes of the game. And, you know, I think the officials tried to let both teams play through it. Because, I mean, if every foul was called on both ends, it would have been, you know, both teams would have shot 50 free throws. So, yeah, a lot of physicality on both ends. You know, I thought they were holding us on every single entry pass, you know. And, you know, so, I mean, I think it works both ways. So, yeah, very physical game. And, you know, I thought for the most part our guys did a pretty good job of handling it. And, you know, I told them, I was like, don't ask for whistles in this game, because obviously, like, that's not how they're calling it right now. You got to adjust to what the officials are doing, and they already have an impossible job as it is. And, you know, our guys did a decent job of hanging in there and trying to play through contact.
Murph going 25 and 10 in 24 minutes. 8 of those boards were on the offensive end. Just how huge was he in this game, considering, you know, Kentucky's got a lot of dudes to play up front.
All right. No, he was great. We talked about trying to set the tone early in this game and send a message as far as how we were going to play. And Murph having 4 offensive rebounds pretty early in that game did a really good job of, you know, kind of establishing his presence early. You know, that was what Mississippi State did to us early in the game, and Murph took to the coaching, and, you know, he kind of flipped that tonight, which was great. And then obviously, I didn't realize he had 25. That's, you know, he obviously played great and made his free throws. And after we had 2 just horrendous defensive mistakes, they don't guard him at the top of the floor, and he just, you know, bangs that 3, which was, you know, obviously that kind of shifted the game right there. And, you know, he had a lot of step up tonight, and I'm glad he played well, because, you know, obviously he was disappointed in how he played against Mississippi State, and he followed it up with an incredible effort tonight.
Nathan?
Steve, you mentioned Kentucky's three-point shooting coming way down in this game. What did you see defensively from your squad, particularly as y'all were making your comeback in the second half? I think they went 6 minutes without a basket at one point.
Yeah, I think we were a little more connected, and I got to watch the film obviously, but I thought we just did a better job of you know, communicating our switches. We did a good job communicating our ball screen coverages. You know, we did a better job with our framing. You know, we didn't get backdoored as much, and I thought our bigs had great ball pressure on their bigs, which made it really difficult for them to see open guys. And, you know, part of it was, you know, we got a little fortunate. They missed some open ones. Yeah, I mean, Chandler goes 1 for 6, so I mean that's, you know, obviously very important, you know, for us. But, you know, we went 5 for 19, so we missed our fair share as well. So, yeah, I just thought we were more connected defensively. Did a good job communicating, and, you know, I thought Keyshawn Hall. Here's your difference. Keyshawn Hall had 8 huge defensive rebounds, and a lot of those came in the second half, so we were able to finish possessions.
Take a few more.
Coach, seems to still be a lot of hard coaching and conversations going on with guys like Tahad and Keyshawn Hall, again, who's struggling offensively tonight. What are those conversations for you tonight in particular, and then just moving forward with some of your best players?
I asked them, you know, there's a couple restaurants in Norman, Oklahoma that we're trying to decide on Monday night if we're going to go to, and, you know, we said we're going to go. Honestly, I'm not really sure which conversations, you know, you're referring to, but, you know, at the end of the game, I lit up Key because he had 2 bad defensive mistakes. And, Tahad, I think the one you're probably referring to is when he fell down. So both those came late, right? Is that what you're probably talking about? Yeah. Okay. So Tahad falls down when he's on the baseline runner action, and Chandler's coming off, and he's like, well, he pushed me. I was like, I don't care if he, suplexed you. You got to get through that. You can't be on the ground because then we're outnumbered if bodies are on the floor. So, we had a spirited conversation, but, he was good, and he locked back in and, did a good job. And then Key just, had two tough mistakes late. Let Owe drive it left downhill, and we talked about sending him right. And, we messed up what we call a top on top, bottom on bottom, and gave an open 3 in the corner. So that was my conversation with him.
Last one, Hockey.
Steven, I think it was right after the game Wednesday, you immediately talked about just how big this game was. To get the win in the last seconds, how important is this for your team with 4 games left?
Yeah, it was crucial. It was a game that we had to have. Obviously, we kind of played our way into a bubble situation, and that's going to be another. I'm not sure how much they'll move. They're at 30 right now in the net. So hopefully only winning by 1 moves them up a spot, and we can keep it as a quad 1 because, every quad 1 win is obviously important. So that's going to be our 5th, I think, of the season, which is significant because a lot of the teams on the bubble don't have that many. So huge win for us, but it means nothing if we don't prepare for Oklahoma with the same desperation that we prepared for tonight.